This polarization stuff, it's real. Politically, we have a very divided country. When one side wins by just a couple percentage points and we say it was a decisive victory, yeah, that's divided. But if you go and just talk to people, all different people, and just listen, the things they talk about are remarkably similar. The themes consistent across very different groups of people. So maybe we have more in common than we think. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Claxton Hepburn Medical Center, dedicated to providing patient care and regional services to the people of St. Lawrence County. claxtonhepburn.org.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Thursday, December 19th. First up, New York is the first state in the nation to take advantage of Biden administration funding for home energy upgrades. Homes and businesses make up 1/3 of climate warming greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. The New York Public News Network's Rebecca Rettelmeyer reports.
New Yorkers can qualify for up to $14,000 to pay for home improvements that save energy, like installing insulation and heat pumps. Governor Kathy Hochul announced the new funding for low and moderate income families in May.
All that money will be able to transform thousands of homes across our state.
The funding comes from the Inflation Reduction Act's $8.8 billion home energy rebate program. It's meant to reduce energy use and cut greenhouse gas emissions, which contribute to climate change. John Graves owns a small 2-story home in Ithaca.
So this house it was built in the 1800s.
Graves is 79 years old, works as a crossing guard, and has lived in Ithaca for most of his life, many of those years in this house. Like any old home, there's been some problems. One major one is insulation.
Ever since we bought this house like 30 years ago, my wife has said, let's get a vapor barrier on the dirt. And we never did it.
A vapor barrier seals the house off from moisture, cold air, and pollution that can seep in from the soil underneath. Many modern-day homes in New York are built with them. But for over a century, Graves' old house had basically just been sitting on dirt. Down in the basement, he points out where the leaks came in.
Water would just be in here pretty good when it rained.
But over the summer, Graves began hearing about the new home energy upgrades program, and he qualified. First, a local HVAC company came to survey his home to do what's called an energy audit. Then, a few weeks later, they put foam insulation on the walls of the basement and in a small area on the second floor. Plus, they installed the vapor barrier. Graves estimates the project would have cost thousands of dollars, which he couldn't have afforded.
It would have cost a lot. This because I qualified, it was free.
He got help from the Cornell Cooperative Extension, a local organization that contracts with the state to improve accessibility to programs like this. Eileen Hanrahan is a community energy advisor there.
We go to events, we go to food lines, we go anywhere where we feel that low to moderate income folks are going to be, and we talk to them as much as possible.
Hanrahan says she understands that dealing with government incentives isn't always easy. People need to submit applications, wait to see if they qualify, and then find a contractor. Often, the contractors approved to work on these programs are overbooked. But Hanrahan's job is to streamline the process, and there are several other clean energy hubs across the state doing similar work. So far this year, the program has helped fund nearly 30,000 home energy upgrades in New York, according to a spokesperson for the State Energy Authority. In Ithaca, I'm Rebecca Rettelmeyer for the New York Public News Network.
So yeah, a divided America, yada yada. But people continue to live their lives and take part in their communities, do things with people who are different from them. Over the past few months, NCPR has been a part of a partnership with NPR that set out to learn more about that, how people find community and maintain it. It's part of a series called Seeking Common Ground. Reporters from NPR member stations around the country sat down for conversations with small groups of people. They recorded nearly 30 in all. Here in the North Country, Anna Williams-Bergen held conversations in Redwood, in Malone, and more. She's been listening back through the tape, from those sessions and from other sessions around the country. And she brings us this story about one common sentiment she heard.
In all our conversations, we asked people what made them feel connected to their community. Heidi Sauerwein grew up in Redwood, a hamlet in the town of Alexandria. For her, the question brought back a childhood memory.
When I was a kid, Sundays were for Sunday drives, so we would drive around from farm to farm and pull in the driveway, and my dad would have conversations about either the corn or how things are going on the farm. So as kids, we didn't really appreciate that because we would be like, when is Dad coming back? But as I've gotten older, I don't think I could live another way.
As I listened back to all these conversations, I was struck by the longing many people felt for connection and a sense of change, that the physical places people used to get together just aren't there anymore. Catherine Atherton is a recent community college graduate in Colorado Springs.
I think that there is a significant lack of places for people who are entering into adulthood. You can't go to a bar when you're 19.
And she says it's not easy finding other places either, even just to practice a hobby, like in her case, knitting.
I love knitting. The only knitting group that I know of meets at a coffee shop, and you're expected to buy something when you go into a coffee shop. You can't just sit and experience with friends, with community.
Another problem, time.
There's very seldom a day of the week that works for everyone. Like I say, I organize parties. Those parties almost never have all of my friends at them.
That's Seth Phillips, a college student also in Colorado Springs. As he points out, there's work that has to be done to get people together. Someone has to organize those parties. Nicole Caldwell from Redwood, New York, says small towns face similar challenges to keep things vibrant.
If it's not somebody taking a chance and buying a dilapidated building and rehabbing it and putting a lot of their own money into it, it's like getting the town to pay attention to like buying these buildings and leasing the space or applying for the grants or whatever. But like, it's like asking people to return whatever to that community.
We hear a lot about our crumbling physical infrastructure, all of the old roads and bridges that we failed to maintain. But America's social infrastructure is also changing. A 2023 Surgeon General's report called social isolation a crisis. It found that fewer people participate in community organizations like religious groups and unions, and that Americans today spend more and more time alone. In our conversations, I heard a lot of frustration about this dynamic, but not as much from people here in the North Country. Katie Searing moved here when her husband got stationed at Fort Drum, and she thinks it's easy to take for granted the kind of connection that people have here.
I mean, a lot of places you don't even make eye contact with people. I mean, it's kind of a culture shock, honestly. Like, people are genuinely trying to have conversations with you and learn more about you, and you just kind of almost forget that aspect of humanity when you've been away from it for so long.
People told us they found community through church, through protests, and even the sport of demolition derby.
The demolition derby brings everybody together. People that you don't see for months at a time. And when it's time to smash, it's like a big get-together.
That was Jason Marlowe, a member of the Malone-based Power Team. Heidi Sauerwein from Redwood, who you heard talking about her father's Sunday drives, she now runs the Indian River Lakes Conservancy, a land trust that helps preserve outdoor spaces.
It's very moving to think about what life might be like if we were to lose the places that we do get together. And so these nature preserves that we're putting together are for everyone, so that everyone can continue to paddle on the lake, take a picnic lakeside, really get in touch and in tune with where they are and what makes the place special.
We heard a lot about how the seasons here in the North Country also bring folks together. Sauerwein's hometown Redwood has less than 500 residents. In the fall, tourists and seasonal residents head home. People start driving slower, businesses close up shop. But fellow Redwood resident David Magby says the season brings people together.
In the winter months, when there's a concert happening or something, everybody's there, right? You know, because there's only so much going on. And there's actually something that's really beautiful about that, because it forces us to be present almost always.
I'm Anna Williams-Bergen for North Country Public Radio.
This project is part of a partnership between NPR and Cortico, a nonprofit affiliated with MIT that uses AI tools to facilitate and spot patterns in conversations. However, everything you heard in that story was written and edited by humans, by us real people. We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Zoe Knight of Potsdam and Eric Pasternak of Bloomingdale. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.